All right. Day 64. Day 64 of a 40-day juice cleanse. A plus student, right? Did that title grab you? It grabbed me as well. It grabbed me and it's had a hold on me for a bit of time. And I thought to myself, I'm like, do I want to share this? Do I want to reveal this part of my life? Do I want to express in this form? Is it my right to express in this form? I don't. Hold on. Let me turn down the light real quick. We about to get real intimate. Hold on. I got too much. Hold on. Let's see if this makes a difference. Oh, Lord. Dropping. There you go. There we go. Does that seem more intimate? Now I'm gonna share it. Let's set the mood. Let's set the mood because sometimes this stuff is heavy, you guys. Who am I talking to? Who am I talking to? I'm just talking to myself. And I felt that I'm like, girl, this is literally your story. This is literally your story. Do you have something to be ashamed of? You wanna present some things but not other things? Remember, this is part of your diaries too. This is part of what you're gonna look back on. This is part of your reflection. And sometimes we get so in the process of becoming, we get so in the process of accomplishing something that we forget the little tiny bricks it takes to build the whole picture. And some of those bricks are chipped, some of those bricks are discolored, some of those bricks are made of a material that you didn't expect, but they're all part of your foundation, right? So, as I'm processing this, learning to process, learning to communicate, learning to express, I got you as a buddy right next to me, okay? This is all news to me, okay? And I can only speak from truth. I had a topic for today, but we're gonna save that for tomorrow because it's current events. It's what's happening right now. So yes. My birth was a result of an affair. An affair. Yes. And spiritually, certain people that I have met in my lifetime, spiritual teachers, I mean the real deal Holyfield. I always wonder, I'm like, how did they pick that up on me? How did that pick up on me? That's because you carry a certain signature. When you're is it in vitro? When your mama is pregnant with you, and if she were to have a high stress pregnancy, it can shape a baby's developing like stress system, but it doesn't necessarily sentence you to a certain lifestyle. It sentences you to a certain, that also takes how you were nurtured, how your environment was, how your meanings, how you were taught, how that all ties into this, we know. If a pregnancy is surrounded by secrecy, by fear, by conflict, or instability, or shame, that maternal stress can affect the developing child's stress and reward system. So that's what I'm gonna base this off. I'm only speaking from experience. I haven't personally heard of anybody else talk about how this could have affected them. I know our parents' choices affect us to a degree, to a degree. Um, but this always interested me. And I'm sure you're probably asking, how long did you know? How long did you know about this? Well, that's an interesting thing. I was told by mama the day before I left for college to Idaho, where I still reside. Yeah, the day before. Let me paint the picture. We're heading, it was me, my mom, and my sister, my older sister. We were heading to one of my favorite restaurants in LA. It was called the Grand Lux Cafe. Favorite, one of my favorites. And I was like, okay, we're getting a little going away thing for Breezy. That's what's up. That's what's up. I got myself into college. I got it paid for. I got a scholarship, all that. Finally, my mom is going to tell me she's proud of me. Finally. And then I noticed my mom asked the waitress, "Hey, can we get a seat in the back?" And I'm like, "Oh." She must about to have us. She about to get, she about to have a speech. Oh, she wanted this to be private. Wonderful, wonderful. This is amazing. I'm over here skipping. I'm about to eat. I'm headed to college to play a sport that I just started. I ended up getting a scholarship because there was no other way I would be able to pay for college. um, so we sit down, and I notice, my mom is very theatrical. You would swear she's a Cancer, but she's an Aries. She's an Aries. That's why we kind of butted heads. She's actually on the cusp of Aries and she's on March 21st, which is like the spring equinox. It's on the cusp of something. And we begin to converse. We're getting the appetizers. I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. This is it. And she looks at my sister, and I'm like, oh, are you guys queuing something up? Like, what's going on here? And she was like, so the people start this you gotta make light of the situations. I do not blame my parents. She was 25 when she had me. Come on, probably 24 when I was conceived. When I was 25, I can't even imagine bearing a child, let alone a second child. So this is not for judgment. This is just we're providing context, okay? Because when you start fasting, when you start detoxing, like I said, you think the fasting is the hardest part in the beginning. Oh, no, 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 no. Your closets under your bed gets cleaned up. Your closets get cleaned up. Your history gets cleaned up. It gets all brought to your to your front door. And it's going to keep on banging until you answer it. So you might as well just find the light in the situation. And I'm not talking about bypassing with this whole positivity. You got to be positive. But knowing and just having certainty that how everything happened was how it was supposed to happen. It created the character in you. It created the humor in you. It created the drive in you. And it created some neurological discrepancies. But it's how you view them. Do you view them as your superpower, or do you view them as a hindrance, Cut back into the scene. So she looks at my sister, and she looks at me, and she looks down, and she's like, well, not making eye contact with me at all this whole time. I'm like, oh, this must be, she about to get, can we submit this to the Oscar committee? Because I feel like she's about to break it down. Okay. And so she told me, the man who I thought was my father, who's my sister's father, who wasn't typically around anyway, by the time I got there, is not actually my father. And I was like, well, okay. That didn't really affect me. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not like he made a pivotal role. He loved to take credit for me getting into college. He loved to put my university stickers when I get trophies, when I get honor roll. Like, he loved to be the representation of that. Never bought me a textbook, never helped me with tuition, never helped me with pretty much anything. So I'm like, oh, okay. I used to kid myself to think, I'm like, oh, I'm the son that he always wanted. Because we bonded over NASCAR, NHRA, all that stuff. I just loved exhaust. I love things that go fast. And I'm just like, oh, this is when my sister, she's a girly girl. She's just like my mom. So I'm like, oh, this is our point of bonding. Oh, this, daddy-daughter relationship. It kind of forms how you treat your money, how you treat your future relationships with men, how you treat what kind of boundaries you have, Daddy wasn't there to teach you the game. So you actually have to figure it out in the real world. And that wastes so much time. And most Black women that I know, my white girlfriends have been dating since they were in elementary school. Most Black women I talk to don't start dating until they're in college. Like, we're a decade behind, okay? We have to learn this stuff as we go, trial and error. And so I say that to say, like, don't be so hard on yourself, Can we keep this light? And I'm sure I'm going to continue processing this, but in this season, and thank God in this fast, that for the most part, I'm regulated. So I can see the logic behind people's decisions or the illogical decisions that they made. So she tells me this man who I thought was my father is not my father. And this man who I thought was my mother's boyfriend when I was around 6 or 7 is actually my father, which is interesting because I only remember meeting him a handful of times, but every time I was with him, I would get Pokemon cards. I would get all the chocolate milk I wanted. He would ride me on his motorcycle. And for some reason, whenever it was just me and him alone, he would tell me, like, hey, you can call me dad. And I'm like, sir, I know who my dad is. You are not my dad. And I just thought that was weird because even at that young age, I noticed I was still so hyper aware of things. I'm like, oh, he never tells my sister that for some reason. And he always wants to hang out with me for some reason. And so I knew him as just a boyfriend. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, now that makes sense. And I don't think my mom ever knew he would tell me that because it would just be me and him. Every time we got a little time alone, it would be me and him. And he would say that. And I'm like, okay. And you know what actually convinced my mother to finally tell me? It's because she says, I act so much like him. You cannot be raised with a biological parent, but you can still bring on their characteristics, their tendencies. I love motorcycles. He loved motorcycles. I like nice cars. He liked nice cars. I have OCD about my closet. I color code everything. He had OCD. We have a weird fascination with an organized fridge. He had an organized fridge. And I used to love going to his apartment because it was always so clean, so spotless, like OCD, OCD for real. I'm like, that makes sense. He was a lone wolf. He didn't really get along with people. He was always joking around, like all these tendencies. So I can only imagine growing up and her looking at me and seeing him every time she looked at me. Because I don't look like my sister and I don't look like my dad. And I always thought it was weird that when I went to my dad's side of my family, they always were so happy to see my sister. And then they would give me the kind of like, oh, hello, like, hi. I'm like, oh, okay, okay. I'm lighter. I have a different, I have a lighter complexion. I have a different figure than them. They're way more curvy. They're way more voluptuous. I mean, I got a little something, but not like, baby girl didn't get hips. Actually, as I'm getting older, I'm like, we getting a little figure, sweetheart. We getting a little figure once that inflammation goes down, once you calm down, once you take a breath, don't do that. Remember I said I just do that. I know the gesture just relaxes me. And so I'm like, okay. And my sister, she was cruel to me growing up. She was quite a big bully and she was always heavier set than me. So I was the athletic one and she was kind of the bookworm, I guess, the nurse, whatever. And she always used to joke that I was adopted and I didn't belong and, all that stuff. So this is all getting tied together because I'm like, oh, that all kind of makes sense. Yeah. I never really felt like I belonged when I was around that family. I think my grandparents have only, on that side, they gave me $10, a $10 check for I think it was my 12th birthday. That's the only thing I've ever gotten from them. So, yeah, 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 yeah. So she told me, the day before I left to college, when this was supposed to be about me, this is supposed to be, oh my gosh, I'm the first person to get a full ride in my family. I figured it out. I'm going to go make mom even more proud, so she can finally tell me she's proud of me. And I was just like, okay, can you pass the egg rolls, please? Okay, thank you. And she just kind of looked like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah. Not knowing that I would store that like I've stored most things in the back of my mind. And I was just ready to move forward. I'm like, I've already signed this contract. I'm headed to Idaho tomorrow. Everything's pulled up. This doesn't change anything. This doesn't change anything. And she said, yeah, you sure you're okay? And I'm like, yeah. Well, I was like, well, have you talked to him? Because I haven't heard from him since I was a child. And I remember he sent a birthday card or something like that to my grandmother's house. I think when I was like 11 or 12, but I remember he always had beautiful handwriting, like cursive, and I've been more prone to writing cursive. I write in cursive all the time. Not saying that's correlation, but her reasoning was you act so much like him. And I noticed growing up, my mom was a little more hypercritical to me than my sister. She was a little more aggressive to me than my sister. She was very dismissive, more dismissive to me than my sister. And I always just thought that was weird. And I'm like, I'm doing all these sports. My sister was so disrespectful. She was so disrespectful. And I'm just like, I'm in advanced classes. I'm excelling at every sport despite asthma, despite funds to do so. I somehow got sponsored with every sport I started because my mom couldn't afford majority of the equipment, majority of the classes, the clinics, anything like that. And my dad didn't help. I think my dad paid child support. Like, I think he did like, it was something crazy. I saw it one time. It was like, it was like $26. So I'm like, I'm used to men not showing up and taking responsibility. But then I don't know. I'm like dealing with my mom. I get it. I get it. I get it. And she was young. Like I said, she was 25. She was married. And can you imagine what she had to feel to go through? Not knowing how this baby's going to look, how it's going to turn out, is going to look like him. I think my biological and my my sister's dad, they were the same complexion though. They have very rich skin. Like they're both like Denzel, that complexion. A little darker than Denzel. I like Idris Elba. I'll say Idris Elba. And so yeah, I can't imagine what that felt like. But I knew I got more brute discipline than I deserved. I definitely got hit more than my sister. I definitely got yelled at more than my sister. I definitely got just emotional uncertainty than my sister. And it all kind of makes sense now. And done well for me. I'm just like, shit, that built hell of a character. I had to find things to make funny, you know? And yeah, I say all that to say I was contacted yesterday actually. And all these pieces kind of just come together because I did one of those 23andMe genetic things, testings years ago. And they'll tell you the percentage of where your family lineage, of who you share DNA with. Like it'll show it on a map, it'll show it percentage wise. And I just had a big hub of people in Alabama. Now, my mom's mom is from the Arkansas area. So I had a little bit over there, and then I had a big part in like Florida and Alabama and all that. And so I knew my mom told me that he was from Alabama, and I actually tried to look for him a couple of times. And I was like, maybe, I'll hire a private investigator or whatever. And it just never came to it. I was like, no, actually, if he wants a relationship, he will come to me. And my mother told me he wanted me aborted. He paid for me to get aborted. He didn't want me, all that stuff. She had to fill in, she had to step up, basically reminded me of how much of a burden I was, you know? And so I get a message. I log on to Facebook to sell a couple things. And randomly I see a message. I'm like, oh girl, you gotta check your messages, girl. You gotta check your messages. And I see a message from a woman named Alabama. I mean a woman from Alabama. And she said, hi, this is let me get the actual message. This was just yesterday. Yes, just yesterday. And it's funny how things work. Like you think you're ready. You think you're ready, don't ya? Don't ya? You don't know what's hiding and waiting for you. Okay, so random message. She said, "Hello, I live in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm friends with blah blah blah. If this name sounds familiar to you, please reach out to me. I have important information for you." And I was like, interesting. I haven't seen that name in decades. So I got back to her. Mind you, I don't check my messages like this. I just happened to come on because I was selling some stuff. And you share the same messenger when you're selling things as your, you know how Facebook works. I didn't. And I was like, oh, hi there. I was like, I haven't heard that name in decades, but yes, I know who that is. And she's like, can you give me a call? She's like, I'm blah, blah, blah's very good friend and coworker. Sorry to have to tell you this, but blah, blah, blah has passed away and you can call or message me. And I was like, oh, I responded back, oh, okay. Before that, though, I'm learning to actually reflect and talk to sacred people or people I deem as safe. So I don't just put it under the rug. I'm like, I'm not going to deal with that. It's not going to affect me anyway. It's all good. I've been doing this without a dad anyway, you know? And so I reached out to my friend Nia, who I brought up yesterday. Check out her music. Check out her music. Nia, I'm gonna link her music in this time because she's just freaking talented. So we get on the call today. I was like, you know what? let's just have this conversation. I was in the sauna getting some red light infrared. I'm like, you know what? Let's just face this. Fasting helps you face things faster, so you can just get on with it. So I reached out to her and we started talking. And yeah, she was like, I hate to have to tell you under these circumstances, but yada yada has passed away, and he had been searching for you for a while, and all he continuously said was, I have a daughter. Her name's Brianna, and I need to find her. But he never really initiated. He was like, I can't find her. But he knew when I graduated from college, which is wild. I'm like, how did you know that? He didn't have Facebook. Mind you, I tried to look for him a couple of times. And she told me he was just a great guy. I'm like, oh, despite relinquishing your responsibilities. I don't think he's ever paid child support. Yeah, he knew. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, this person did not want me. How does that reflect into your relationships? How does that reflect in how you interact with the opposite sex? This is all unconscious. This is subconscious. How does that even reflect how you deal with women? It's deep, y'all. It's deep. But this is life. This is what we're here to experience. In some way, I chose my parents exactly how this is. And my first thought was, oh, dang, I thought we would have more time. I thought one day we would reconnect and put the past behind us and just grow the relationship from there eventually. She's telling me how good of a guy he is, and they've known each other for years, and he kept to himself, like all these tendencies that I have. I'm like, this is so interesting. And I was just telling her a little bit about myself, and I'm like, wow. And she was like, at one point, he actually drove from Alabama. He thought I was still in California. He drove from Alabama to California, I guess, to look for me. And he had this one picture of me. I guess I was on his shoulders with my mom next to him. And I guess he showed everybody that picture. And now this woman, I think she had a daughter who was also, we shared the same first and middle name. So he was like, yeah, he's the only one who knew how to say her name properly. And now it makes sense because that's your name. And he would just spoil her. And I'm like, I was almost homeless a few times. That would have helped a lot. But I'm saying that to say, like, what you have to go through is just what you have to go through. It builds character. It builds your intuition. It builds your resilience. Like, I get why my mom had to do what she had to do. I get why he had to do what he had to do. And she sent me his obituary, and I was like, whoa, it's like a splitting image. And she was so patient. That Southern hospitality. She was so patient, wanted to answer anything. And I think she just wanted me to feel comforted. And she kept on telling him, she's like, you need to find her. Let me help you find her. And I guess he just kept on saying no. And I looked at his obituary, and he was actually 70 years old. So he's a decade older than my mother. And I'm like, wow, whoa. So she was like, yeah, and he's always had nice cars. He's always had like 3 or 4 cars at a time, and I never understood that. I'm like, oh, what a dink. My car blew up last year. Can he? Girl, don't be a taker. Don't be a taker. That's how I know. I'm like, okay, there's still little remnants of survival in there that lack. Like, when you're thinking about what you can get, girl, you better correct that instead of just you're gonna go through levels of this grieving, and it doesn't mean that somebody has to pass away. It just means when things don't work out how you expect them to work out, there's a form of grief that you just have to go through the phases, because if you continue to repress it, that's going to just be held in your kidney, and it's going to make it impossible. I'm like, my biggest goal, my main goal is to relax, to release. I'm still releasing. I'm still fasting. I can't let things outside of my control, outside of my circumstances govern what I have going on in here. And how divine is it that this lined up, that I'm so regulated that I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. I understand. So yeah, she actually was the one who found him. And she had noticed that he hadn't called her in a couple of days, which is, I mean, guys, have at least one close friend. At least one. He was a lone wolf, but at least she knew, like, she was, she's married to a beautiful woman, And yeah, like she had a daughter with my same name, and I'm just like, wow, wow, okay, this is I'm taking this all in while in the sun. I'm like, wow, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we still gotta do what we gotta do, right? And so the ceremonies are this weekend in Alabama, and yeah, I wish I could have made it because that's a whole lineage of my family that I have no idea. And apparently, he had a twin sister who reached out to me, or the friend gave me the information to reach out to her, and I've reached out, and she's like, I can't wait to catch up with you. And I just, we hate that it happened to be these circumstances, and we wish it would have been earlier, all that type of stuff. And I asked him, like, do you know the cause or anything? Because obviously, health related, you should know this stuff. Um, Even though your environment plays more of a role than your genetics. Yeah, so that's something I will never have closure on. But just like I have my grandmother right here, she has a whole little setup right here. His sister said he's gonna send me the obituary, and I'm like, can you send one of those cars with that obituary? Yeah. He never reproduced, he never got married. He was a Marine, and he retired, I think, at like the post office or whatever. I don't really know. I'm taking this all in as I learn. And I understand. That's one of the most saving grace terms that you can use. I understand. When somebody cuts you off, I understand. If I were given the same circumstances, I probably would have showed up the same way. And it actually gave me an inkling. I kind of wanted to call my mom. And I'm like, hey, and mind you, I haven't talked to my mom in almost 6 years, 5 years. Um, but she's, preoccupied. She's never tried to look for me. She's doing her own thing. She has grandkids now. Like my sister gave her 2 grandkids, so hopefully this next time works. And yeah. So you may not always get closure. What next? What now? What now? So yeah, and this they have been so hospitable to me. They have just said anything you need, or I just want to connect with you, and I hope to, whatsoever. Like this woman did not have to do this. She did not have to find me. Her and her wife were looking for me. And her wife is the one that actually found me, but she's the one that made contact. And I'm like, oh wow. And mind you, I still have my married name because I have so much. I've been divorced for years, but I have so much paperwork in my married name. I used to joke with my ex-husband. I'm like, if we ever break up, I'm keeping the last name. It was just too much of a process to change, and it made me kind of one of one. I was like, there was a ton of Briannas with my maiden name, but not many with my married name. So I had the best email. I had the best like Instagram handle, the best like easily findable. So that's kind of what's happened in this last day or so. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? You thought you was ready. You thought you could anticipate what you was about to be. Come face to face. You are literally coming face to face with anything that has been open to interpretation, anything that has been, it's coming to your front door. I just want to warn you with that one. It's coming to your front door. You thought those first few weeks were just, that was cupcakes. That was baby cakes. Now we're getting to we're really getting deep and uprooting whatever makes you you. So, yeah. So that's news I've got. And, I don't know what to think of it. I'm giving myself the grace to feel how I feel. Like, even when I got out of the sauna, I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, sometimes you actually verbally have to remind yourself it's safe for you to cry if you want to cry right now, Breezy. And I talked to my friend Nia. She's like, I know you have a tendency to try attempt to keep a high frequency, or you'll make a joke or something, or you'll laugh about something that's most people will find very dire news. And it's automatic for me. When things start getting dark and heavy, I'm like, you're going to activate all this heaviness that I've been just holding in my solar plexus, in my throat chakra, in my heart, all that. So let's just lighten the mood. Like let's I just feel things too deeply. I feel things way, way, way too deeply. Too deeply. And how you feel things can correlate to how what your mother was going through. So this is all starting to connect the dots. As soon as you have awareness, you can choose to continue to reacting like that or another path. I think it's important to understand what your mother was going through as she was pregnant with you. Even if she doesn't tell you the whole story, you can pick up on you can pick up on things. And they may lead you. Like there's not a ton of science about this, but there's not a ton of science based, but there's a lot of spirituality about this. And I had two spiritualists, energy healers, Reiki masters tell me like, was your mom highly stressed when she was pregnant with you? One of them, I was actually in a class and she actually looked. She was like, was anybody a product of an affair? And I was like, this was a couple years ago. And I was like, talk about shout out. Talk about shout out. And my friend was actually there with her mom. And she looked back at her mom's like, girl, you have energetic remnants of you that certain people who are gifted in these areas can pick up on. Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? So basically, today's video is just talking about what a high stress pregnancy can teach a child, like even before birth. These are layers, baby. Y'all want to know the truth? We could get to the truth. This one is personal. Like some of us started adapting before we even were born. And if you're married, if your mother carried you through fear, shame, conflict, or chronic stress, your body may have learned the world before you ever could. That doesn't mean you're doomed. That doesn't mean, oh, woe is me. It means your healing may need to start earlier than your memories, than your collection. What science actually says, researchers, including it was Viviette Glover, Catherine Monk, B.V. Danberg, have shown that maternal stress, anxiety, depression during pregnancy are associated with higher risk of later emotional, behavioral, and cognitive difficulties in children. We know this is not going to be identical in every child, but the pattern is well established across general research, human research. The womb is not just physical housing, it's also biochemical communication. You are literally connected to your mama. Literally. She is your first instant of nutrition, of care, of calm, all that. How the signal gets to the baby? One proposed pathway is the mother's stress biology. So during pregnancy, maternal stress can affect like cortisol, inflammatory signals, the placenta's regulation of what reaches the fetus. It's basically the filter. Researchers have pointed to the placenta, including there's an enzyme, there's a specific enzyme, and I can't remember because it looked like a name that Elon Musk would name his child. I was like, whoa. But it helps convert cortisol to inactive cortisone as one mechanism involved like in fetal programming. So basically, like if mom's body is getting the message, we are not safe, the baby may begin organizing around that message too. Can you imagine that? How that feels in a womb? It's dark, you're in liquid, and you're like, something's wrong. Something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. That tightening, that constriction. Prenatal stress has been associated with increased risk for anxiety, attention problems, ADHD, emotional dysregulation, avoidance, escapism, and other neurodevelopment challenges. So the prenatal period is also a particularly sensitive development window. We know this now, right? Sometimes the child can grow up hyper alert, easily overwhelmed, craving control, or always waiting for the next shoe to drop. I'm like, sum me the up. You done summed me up? You done summed me up. Not knowing why. I want to relax. I want to chill. I feel like that's naturally me. But something just rings the fire alarm, and I'm like, what? That's damaging when your body is not naturally equipped to handle all of that. My biggest correction in his life is the correction of scarcity and lack. That's one of my biggest, along with pride, but lack and scarcity is one of my biggest. It's just hyper vigilance. I'm just always aware. I take in so much information, take in so much emotion. I'm just like, wow, I haven't calibrated high enough to be able to handle this, to be able to put up energetic boundaries, to be able to center myself. So majority of my childhood just felt like majority of my adolescence and I had the external validation to mirror it back to me. It was just a cyclical type of thing. Always moving. My mom always in a new relationship, changing schools, changing back to schools, having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning just to go to school, having no lunch money, barely getting 75 cents, or my mom couldn't give me lunch money at all. Come to find out, I thought about it, I'm like, wait, my mom never packed a lunch. How was she actually ate out every day. While I went to school with maybe a dollar 25. That was enough for some Cheetos and like a cookie. Girl, of course you have parasites and worms. That's what you was eating. How can this connects to feelings of lack if you feel like that is your core wound too? If you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, if you can make money, but you can't hold on to it. Science doesn't necessarily say a fetus consciously knows I was unwanted or I was an affair baby. But if pregnancy is saturated with stress, with conflict, with reduced emotional attunement after birth, that can contribute to a stress adapted nervous system and insecure attachment pattern later on. Those patterns can feel like chronic lack, not enoughness, or an ache for safety and belonging. Do you feel that? Maybe what I called lack was sometimes a nervous system that learned uncertainty before language. It's a feeling. And just because my brain couldn't conceive it, because I couldn't break down the actual meaning of why I felt what I felt, I'm like, well, it must not be real. Let's sweep it under the rug. You're right. My mom, you know, I am acting, yeah, you're right. I am acting crazy. Or when I got that in a relationship, yeah, I am, actually, yeah, you're right. Because I can't explain this. So it must be inexplainable. It must be my imagination. And you bring in circumstances that just gaslight that, and gaslight that, and gaslight that, and gaslight that. And so you're getting confirmation in your 3D, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So you're just constantly projecting the same scenario, the same situation, but with different people. It's not your fault, but now that we know better, we must. Exactly, exactly. So where addiction can actually enter the chat, there is credible research pathway linking prenatal stress and early life stress with later vulnerability in stress responses and reward systems, including dopamine related pathways that are relevant to addiction risk. Animal and human literature both point to altered, it's the HPA axis is the technical term, regulation and reward processing as possible mechanisms. your dopamine centers, some people call it the opioid centers, like where you're more prone to want that stimulated, it gets distorted. That's why you can't see the world for what it really is. Your pleasure and pain receptor, which is in the same area, has been so distorted. If your body was trained early to scan for relief, intensity, or safety. Mind you, I told you the only people I've dated are the people who were so intense on coming down my door, on texting me, following me everywhere, showing their affection to me. Like, that's the only way I actually saw people who were interested. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I needed to be so saturated. It needed to be so clear. I used to just blame it on being a tomboy. I'm like, usually tomboys, they're oblivious to that. I'm like, girl, you're a woman with the intuition. You know what's up. It makes sense later in life. You might reach for substances. You like in a gorging fact. Like you have to feel something. It has to be intense. Substances, food. I never really liked drama. I really like. I just don't like conflict because I just didn't know what I was capable of. Never got in a fight except with my sister. But I don't know. Never, nobody ever stepped to me like that. I don't know. But I've always wanted the opportunity. I'm like, ooh, I just want to see what I'm capable of. I've always known I'm stronger than the average woman. I've always known that. And I'm like, girl, don't even get yourself in that position. You've been taught to shrink. You've been taught to be fearful of your own power, of your own capability. So you start reaching for substances, food, sex, work, you workaholics, burning out your adrenals, or chaos to regulate what you never learned to regulate safely. This is not moral, like it's not a moral failure. It's a nervous system strategy that was adopted before you can even take your first breath. This is kind of where spirituality comes in. I don't believe ever, ever, ever that a child comes in broken. I believe the child comes in sacred. But sometimes the nervous system gets patterned around survival before the soul gets room to speak. Science calls it fetal programming, stress sensitivity, epigenetic adaptation. Spiritually, I might call it maybe an early imprint, a body preparing for a world it expects to be hard. Researcher from Harvard's Center of the Developing Child also supports the broader idea that early stress can alter stress systems and even gene expression, how your genes turn on and off, how your hormones turn on and off, while later supportive relationships can buffer and reshape these outcomes. If you had great relationships growing up, if your parents happen to work it out, if you happen to get therapy, if you happen to be able to talk about it, and the black families, we don't talk about it, we keep secrets. My mom didn't know her father either. My grandmother wouldn't tell my mom who her dad was until way later. It was a white man. White man. And he was pretty well known. He owned a huge company in Arkansas. And he was married, had his own family, had his own kids. So I'm like, oh, well, this looks like an affair too. This. Oh, this is like genetic. I've never had an affair. So I'm like, am I gonna break this pattern or what? Because it's quite a pattern. 2 generations, maybe even 3 of affairs. And back then, grandmama, she's a nice mahogany. She's over here. You can't really see her. And it was quite still segregated in Arkansas. So, interesting. Just interesting. You're just here to observe. You're just here to observe, sweetheart. The hopeful return. If this lands for you, don't hear this is your destiny, it's just direction. If your nervous system adapted early, then your healing journey is not about blaming your mother or blaming yourself. It's about finally understanding the body you've been living in and why it acts the way it acts, why it's overwhelmed, why you feel like you just feel everybody's emotion. It's just you rather be alone because you just haven't been learned how to regulate. This is why relationships are so freaking important. With people you trust, with people who want nothing from you, with people who don't revere you, but they respect you, you know? Your journey may not have started at your first memory. It may have started in the womb. But the beautiful part is once you can name the pattern, you can stop essentially worshiping it, essentially having it freaking govern your decisions. You want relationships. You don't want to be the lone wolf. You want to be regulated. You want to be able to show up consistently for people. You want to be able to show up for your community and all that. Like this, posting every day. I don't know if I'm relaying what this is doing for me. Even how I talk, I'm starting to talk different with people. Me wanting to call somebody after I heard these news, that is so out of my character. My old character, my old identity. But in order to want different, in order to have different, you must do different. How do you know this might not make you feel better? How do you know what's in store for you? Don't you believe that God has a biggest plan? Don't you believe that these circumstances are never to harm you but to prosper you? Okay, we get a little ab coming out. Hold on now. Don't get distracted. Crop top season about to be in full fledged. I've never been a crop top girly, but do different and be different. So, thank you for sitting on this therapy couch with me. Your awareness is not the end of the story, it's just the beginning of choice. Now that you know how this might have affected you, how this could have the possibility, you have a whole nother family that you didn't even know about. Don't expect anything, just observe. I understand why it had to happen like this. And allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to go through those however you decide to grieve. But hopefully you have community and somebody to talk to. Because I think this happens more often than we let on. This is the time of Aquarius where truth is really just being exposed. I mean, on we see it in media all the time. These things have been happening forever. They're just now getting exposed. Now we have the leverage to actually talk. Now people are talking about their symptoms, talking about their trauma, talking about without fear of judgment, I guess. This is quite vulnerable. This is quite vulnerable. And not everybody's going to understand it, but I'm not for everybody. I knew that. I knew that from the womb as well. But hopefully you can take a nugget from this and just know this is a journey about learning yourself. And that's the good, the bad, the ugly, the mysterious, the unresolved, the uncomfortable, all of that. All of that. And not judging yourself or the people who inflicted their will on your life, even if it's your first instant of caregivers. Okay. Now that we have that awareness, we can choose how we move, how we would like to move forward. Hopefully that helped you and gave you a little solace. Um, just because you were formed in just dire situations, it's not a life sentence. It's a clue to where your healing begins. You want to really forgive? You want to really live with a clean slate? Yeah, you gotta forgive everybody, including yourself and your mama and your papa. This man talked about me all the time, and I had no idea. I had a sensation that I've always had a sensation that somebody was chasing me or somebody was looking for me. Now, I manifested that in certain ways where the chase was not the type of chase I wanted, but it's kind of makes sense now. And he had 35 years to try to find me, and he just ran out of days. And he died alone. And that makes me like, I don't want that same circumstances. I don't want that same. It was a wake up call, basically. I'm so much like this man, and I have never really spent time with him. Like, do you want the same circumstances? Do you want somebody to find you after days? Or do you want to right all your wrongs now? Do you want to pay your debts now? Do you want to tell that person what they meant to you? I don't think I'm too worried because I know the physical is just one veil. And the ways I'm getting so sensitive with everything around me, I'm like, I think he'll may visit me. I don't know the actual time lapse of people who go into the spirit world. Some shamans say it takes about a year to get them acclimated to where they can actually revisit. I don't know. I don't know how it works. This is all theory. Who actually knows what's going to happen? But how I'm showing up, I'm choosing to be different. And thank God that this all led it's all happening how exactly it's supposed to happen. So don't take it personally. Just write it as another page of your book. Process it, talk about it. You never know who you're going to relate with, you know? And you're going to want this just in case you forget what you had to go through while you're getting to where you need to go. Okay? I'll end it at that. That's all I got. That's all I got right now. So, yeah. Um, Interesting topic. Thank you for staying to for my story time and getting to know me a little better. I have nothing to hide. I can't hide anymore, sweetheart. Even if I wanted to, sweetheart, I ain't gonna be hiding the summer. You see that shoulder coming out? I said, "Oh, girl. It's safe to be sexy. It's safe to express. It's safe to be vulnerable. It's safe. You just have to remind yourself like that, okay? Despite how you started, you can choose how you end. I love you so much. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'll see you tomorrow.